beautiful lot. My name's Jason. This is my 80's podcast. You put the boom into my heart. Get in there. Right, the number one song this week in 1981 in February is Joe Dulce with I Shut Up Your Face. What's the matter, you? Hey, got no respect. What do you think you do? I have to be honest, 3 weeks at number one, that used to drive me absolutely insane. But it was a song that everybody loved. And all I remember, the only person that probably didn't love it was Ultravox with Vienna, because it's actually stopped them from going to number one in 1981. Sorry, Midge. You were robbed. Absolutely robbed. Yes, that was Joe Dulce. Shut Up Your Face, your number one song in 1981. Do, do, do. Right, you beautiful lot. This is the chat. I've got a great chat coming up with the amazing Lisa Chambers from Australia, a really good friend of mine, an amazing human being. And I've been trying to get Lisa on for a while, so we did it. So growing up in New Zealand, this will be something different. But take a listen to this. It's absolutely brilliant. I'll do an 80s chat with you. I mean, about you growing up in the 80s, but I've got to do this one. I'm sorry. I have to do this one. I have to do that. Name that boom boom with you. The lyrics. If I don't do it, I'll be crucified.
Okay.
So right. I'm here with the amazing Lisa Chambers. So we're going to do my 80s podcast. It's Name That Boom Boom. So I'm going to read the lyrics out. We're going to guess them. Are you ready? Right. Her hair is hollow gold. Her lips are sweet surprise. Her hands are never cold.
Can you sing it for me?
Oh, really?
Yep.
No, her hair is hollow gold. Her lips are sweet surprise. No, her hands are never cold because she's got Betty Davis eyes.
That's it. Yes.
That's the one.
That's
Jason,
the one.
That's the one. Right, the next one, number 2. I don't know why I did the things I did. I don't know why I said the things I said. Pride's like a knife, it can cut deep inside. Words are like weapon, they wound sometimes. I can give you a hint at there.
Okay.
She was in Mermaids. And she was in a great film with Jack Nicholson, Michelle Pfeiffer, and Suzanne Sarandon.
Loads of hair.
Yeah, icon. Loads of hair. She only got a little tiny little tiny letters for a name. It begins with C. And she got a really deep, husky, one of those unique voices. Yeah. 1989 that was.
Wow.
Lisa, I don't understand how that's that long. Right, number 3. I don't care what they think about me. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they think. If you're leaving, I'm going to beg you to stay. I can sing this one.
It's so hard when you say the words but not hear the music.
Absolutely. And this is what I was saying when I've done them before. It's completely different to, my singing, I'll give it a sing. It ain't going to make you a bit of difference. But I'll give it a. I don't care what they think about me, and I don't care what they say. I don't care what they think. If you're leaving, I'm gonna beg you to stay. No different, was it?
Still don't know it.
Oh, I'm you didn't get it from that beautiful tone. It was Being With You by Smokey Robinson. It was a 1981. I don't care what they think if you're leaving.
I don't think I've ever heard the song.
I'm going to play that. I'm going to have to do that. We're going to have to do a duet with that. I'm going to make that happen. Right, the next one. Tongue-tied or short of breath. Don't even try. Try a little harder. Something's wrong. You're not naive. You must be stronger. I have to be honest. Even reading, it's just the fact that I know what that is. I wouldn't have got that from that. But I will sing it.
Okay.
Like tongue-tied or short of breath, don't even try. Ooh, try a little harder. Something's wrong, you're not naive, you must be strong. You ever heard of too shy, hush, hush, eye to eye? You know, I had a Kajagoogoo, have you?
I know that little bit of the song, but I don't know who sung it.
Kajagoogoo.
Oh, okay, there you go.
Yeah. I'll give you that one. You got that one right. Right, next one. Last but not least, To make things right, you need someone to hold you tight. And you think love is to pray, but I'm sorry, I don't pray that way.
I don't think I listened to music when I was in nappies.
This is, yeah, you are a little bit young with this, but do you know what? I just thought she's going to be educated. How fucking wrong was I?
Who sang that one?
That was, well, I was singing, to make, you need to hold you tight, and I think love is to pray, but I'm sorry, I don't pray that way. Tainted love. Did you know that one?
Yep, I do know that one.
Soft. See what I mean? I was born.
It's so bad because I've got so many 80s songs downloaded from Spotify, but
Do you know what it is though? It is, you're absolutely right. Do you know when you're reading them out, it's just completely different, isn't it? It's just, I always think that it's just completely different. They don't sound nothing like what you're talking about. Right, that's that done. So we'll talk about growing up. So what can you remember? Because I always think in the 80s, so we're talking about the 80s, and I've spoke to you a bit about it before, but yours must have been pretty different, because if you were in New Zealand, your 80s growing up would have been completely different to, you've had the weather, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
You'd have, yeah, we'd have had the weather. As you can tell, she's nice and tanned.
No, very
I've got
burnt.
sore nose, but not tanned. It's not as nice and tanned. I would love. So what can you remember about growing up in the 80s? The late 80s, because I don't think you're probably, it's like I said, if you were born in 79, you know what I mean, you probably wouldn't remember the early 80s. But I remember, because we were talking about, I mean, especially things that came out of, I keep saying Australia, because I'm going to go to Australia. Things like, I mean, you must remember like things when Kylie Minogue got big, Australia, because
she was on the Mickey Mouse Club first, wasn't she, with her sister?
She was.
Yeah.
She was. And who else was on? I can't remember. There was someone else that was on there that was quite famous as well, weren't they, in the 80s?
Yeah, there were quite a few.
But did you watch the Mickey Mouse Club?
I think I only ever watched a couple of episodes.
Because I'd heard of it, but I've never seen any of it. And it was because I was doing this, so I thought I'm gonna have a look. She's like, it's like that time.
Yeah.
I didn't realise how young they were when they started. But then it's like anything else. It's like when you think in the 80s, she was so. I mean, she was like, was she 15, 16 or something when she sang Locomotion? Because that came from one of the shows that was on, wasn't it? Locomotion, when she did that, because obviously that was a copy of an old 60s. Someone's going to tell me I'm wrong. It's an old 60s song, but we never heard of that. I mean, we'd heard of that, but we all we remember is because Neighbours was massive in the 80s. I mean, you must. I mean, it was just. I said to think I don't think I've ever seen anything apart from. I mean, you've heard of EastEnders, haven't you?
I love EastEnders.
EastEnders in the UK was absolutely, that was one of my obsessions in the growing up in the 80s. It was like, and then that was massive. But when Neighbours was just something else, wasn't it? And that's, you know what I mean? And then she obviously left Neighbours because she was selfish.
I used to watch it, but we didn't get it that often in New Zealand. So I got stuck on EastEnders, Coronation Street, and Emmerdale Farm. Like, I still watch it to this day.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
You must be quite behind us. The thing is for me about EastEnders, I mean, this has been going on about my obsession with EastEnders. I've not spoken about it before, but I remember being absolutely, because when it first came out, because all we had at the time was things like Coronation Street, and I wasn't really a massive fan because my grandma used to watch that, so I associated like Coronation. I shouldn't say that. I associated Coronation Street with the older generation. It's not, but I did at the time, and I was quite young. But I remember EastEnders just like blew onto the screen. I mean, the first episode was like someone dead. You know, literally, they smashed this door down, and it was was it Reg? Yeah, it was someone called Reg. You know what I mean? And then it just got better and I think for icons as well. You know, people like Angie Watts, Nita Dobson.
Yeah,
was just, even now. I mean, I'm still obsessed with it. I still watch EastEnders, but I think the 80s stuff was more. Especially like in Easter and Dirty Den is when he was in there. I mean, that was just absolutely humongous over here.
We still got Sharon, which is the daughter. She's still in it.
She's still in it. I mean, even here, she's still in it.
You know what I mean? But I just think some of them are just, God, I love EastEnders. I could drivel on, but I had posters on my wall of EastEnders. That's how sad I was.
Yeah.
Black and white, news cuttings.
On your wall.
And always, I was told this story so many times, and I always remember having all these posters on my wall, all the Wham ones. And I always remember my dad putting I didn't know it was there, but he'd put a picture of Samantha Fox. You know, Samantha Fox, you probably never heard of Samantha Fox.
Heard of the name.
She was a page 3 girl. And all the men loved her. And I remember him putting this big poster of Samantha Fox on my wall. And I didn't even, I have to be honest, Lisa, I didn't even notice that there. And it had probably been there for weeks and weeks and weeks because there was that many posters up there. And I can remember him coming up to me and saying, oh, pointing to her. And as soon as I was more angry, not the fact that she was up there, I was more angry that one of her left boobs was in George Michael's face. You know, on there, and that angered me even more. But yeah, I loved all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and that's what was quite nice, especially knowing that you used to watch EastEnders, because that's like, you know what I mean, they're completely different. I mean, you're probably way behind us, but we're, you know what I mean, even now, some of the characters that were in the 80s have come back into the show. And that's what I love. I love all that sort of nostalgia stuff. EastEnders. I'm not going to drivel on anymore. What groups did you like? Because you must have had some really different groups in the 80s growing up. Because I did some research about, not so much, I should have done New Zealand, but I did Australia. And I have to be honest, I didn't know any of, to be honest, of the 80s stuff.
Yeah.
Growing up in the 80s. So what were the 80s stuff that you listened to in?
So Kylie Minogue was a big one. And Whitney Houston.
Yeah.
That was my two massive cassettes I had when I was younger.
Cassette.
I used to wind them with a pen to rewind.
Yeah. And you know what used to make me laugh with that? He's like, my sister mentioned it to me a while ago, and he's like, and you know, if you wanted to record over it, you used to have to like put
tape.
Well, you could have put sellotape over it. I don't know why I chew paper up and put it in. That speaks more about me. I used to chew paper up and put it in.
Yeah.
And I always remember, I've spoken about, my dad had this, I can understand it now, and I have that empathy for it now. But when I was younger, I always remember, because I couldn't afford a cassette, and I always wanted to take the top 40 obsessively every Sunday, pressing that button and then trying to stop it before DJ droned it out of his mouth. But I always remember I had got the cassettes, and I got my dad, he had Queen's album, and it was, and I love Queen now. Do you know, thinking about it, and it was the new one. He'd only had it like weeks, and I can remember taking it and snapping the ends off.
Yeah.
And putting, I'm recording the top 10. He was absolutely, I've never seen my dad that angry. But now, as an adult, I understand that because I love Queen.
Yeah.
They're things that, I mean, I was saying that about I'm collecting my vinyl at the minute. Look at that Grease. I had loads of it. But when obviously growing up, when my mum, it was in the attic, it's all gone now. So I'm trying to get all that back. Even EastEnders books, that's why I need to get out a bit more.
Yeah.
Manuals, I found them the other day, and that got me a little bit more excited. And Steve just looked at me, gone out. But yeah, I always think, when I think about Whitney Houston, I always think, what an amazing, and she was, I thought for me, she was effortless when she spoke. And sorry, when she sang,
yeah.
it was just effortless, wasn't it? There was, you know what I mean? And she was, and I just don't think you'll ever get them sort of icons, because I don't think, I mean, and I've always said this before, I always think in the 80s, growing up in the 80s, it was very much, everyone wanted to be different, didn't they? They wanted to be unique, whereas I think nowadays, everyone hears a little bit of they've got a great voice, I'll copy that you know what I mean? I'll copy some of that. And whereas I think, and then we got into the 90s and they just became all techno, didn't it? And it was all machines. But I think in the 80s, they genuinely, all the artists like Wham, Duran Duran, even Kajagoogoo, you know what I mean? Spandau Ballet, all wanted to be, and they were all different because they all sounded different. They had their own sound. And that is one of the things I absolutely love about the 80s, everyone being different. But did you ever have any, because I was looking, did you have any like rock bands in the 80s?
Yes, well, the biggest ones because I grew up on a lot of my parents' stuff. So there was Elvis.
Yeah.
There was the Scorpions.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was Patsy Cline, like Queen.
Oh, Queen are just something else, aren't they? I always think.
There was who else? Like it was just mum and dad's like all their music, and I still to this day listen to all of it.
Have you ever watched the because I always talk about, because I used to, I mean, you would have been too young. Remember Live Aid, when Live Aid was out?
Yes.
Have you ever watched that now?
Mm-hmm.
Because that's just, I mean, when you watch that even now, I mean, I've got goose pimples just talking about it. And I remember actually watching that, and it was a red hot day, and it just blew my mind, because it was when, I was obsessed with Madonna at the time. And when she came on, I think I literally dining onto music ever, because I don't think it was one of the first, but it was probably one of the first-ish concerts that she'd done, and she was amazing. But they had like stars like Bowie, didn't they? And, you know what I mean? And you know, Mick Jagger doing duets with David Bowie, and you know, even now, Freddie Mercury. I mean, Queen just absolutely stole the whole of that show.
Oh, absolutely, especially the encore and everything.
Oh, do you know? I've got goose pimples. Every time I talk about Bandit and I think about, especially Queen, Freddie Mercury. I mean, I love Wham. George Michael's my absolute idol, and he was amazing on it. But Queen just literally stole it. I mean, even now, I mean, when you watch, I watched the clip the other day. And, do you know, even, I mean, have you had this? Remember Status Quo?
Yes.
Because they opened up the show. I mean, they were brilliant. You know what I mean? I think every single person on there was amazing in their own way. But Queen, Freddie Mercury.
I just don't think anyone can ever beat Queen ever.
No. I just think, and Freddie Mercury was, and I mean, if you're talking about a unique voice, I mean, I know he was out in the late 70s and all that, early 70s and all that. But for me, growing up in the 80s, obviously, it's a bit like you were saying, my dad influenced me, and so did my mum. So I grew up on Queen, even though I ruined his cassette.
And Phil Collins. Loved Phil Collins.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? They were all big 80s stars, and Ultravox. I listened to them the other day, mid-year, and Ultravox, with Vienna and all that. I was going to break into song then, but you really don't want me to hit them Vienna notes. It means nothing to me, oh, Vienna. But they were, you know what? Them sort of things, I always think, as much as I sit there and think, God, inside I feel about 30 years of age, I'm glad I'm the age I have, because I would never, you know, it's like my sister's got 2 young kids, and they're obsessed with the 80s, and it's really, you know, you watch, because they're only like 12 and I think about 12, and they love it. The daughter dresses up, and the son loves all, and you just think to yourself, that's when you know a decade that's probably always going to be. People always, I mean, when you think it's over 40 years ago.
Yeah, that's showing your age.
Some of that. Yeah. You know what I mean? It is 40. I mean, how is that possible? How I can still remember, because we were talking about this as well. We were talking about, this is really sad. I'm going to mention it again. We were talking about one of my massive memories was, there's loads of stuff, but I always remember we came from it wasn't a poor family, but we had I can remember going to this place called Mablethorpe Homes. It's where kids went and not been on holiday. Even though my dad worked, I put my hand up at school, they sent me, and it was the most horrific. The people were lovely there. It was, and the amount of times I must have wrote home saying, come and fetch me. No one came and got me. And they sent money and all that. But it was, I don't know whether I think it's because it was the first time I was away from home. I'd never been anywhere, and I was only like 8, 9. Do you know what I mean? I'd never been away from home, and it was for 2 weeks. And even now, Lisa, we used to have like these little brown lockers, and you lift up, you know, you put all your clothes in, and
yeah.
And even now, that smell, I've gone into shops before and literally smelt that smell, and it's took me straight back to that moment in time. And it's like,
I think it was a privilege to grow up in the 80s. It really was.
Oh, yeah.
Like the memories you have, even a lot of the clothing came back from the 80s.
Yeah, I mean, even now they still wear them, don't they? And it just, and I always think, as much as I mean, obviously I was born in 1971.
Old fart.
I was like 10 in 81, so I got the teenage years in the 80s. So I remember all these, and I always remember going when it got to the end of it, when I was like a bit 18, 17, 18, and when the Kylies and the Jasons and all come out, and even now I'm missing, because they don't do it now. Going to a disco with a record player, they used to play records on a disco because they use like computers now, don't they, to play music. But listening to, and you knew when it was coming to, you'd hear the crackling as it came on, and then the song. And I always used to think, so how's it? We're all jumping about, dancing, and we're quite near it, because sometimes they do bounce, don't they? The needles come off. But I just think that was a unique time for me, and I just think that, especially discos, because nothing's like that now. You don't ever get records. I don't know whether someone will probably say they do. I mean, I hope people still do it. Like the 80s discos where you saw and it's the neon stuff, and it's the colours and the clothes. Like we were saying, all the clothes come back in fashion all the time. You know what I mean? It's not just like little bits of it. They come back all the time. It always comes back around. And I've seen it's like recently I seen someone with the Beanie Boppers on, and it wasn't the old bit. It was the old Beanie Boppers. The old, like, called Beanie Boppers. I don't think they're called that, are they? I've no idea. Like things that you put on your head that look like they're bouncing around on top of your head. I've no idea what they're called. And clothes. And even I seen someone saw leg warmers on the other day, and they were luminous pink leg warmers. But even all that was, you know what I mean? And you're right when you said about it being a privilege to grow up in the 80s, because I just think you can't, for me anyway, I don't know, some people have different ideas of it, but for me in the 80s was just, I loved it. I loved the fact that we was a bit more free, whether it's because we didn't have what there is now. I think we had a lot more freedom, didn't we? We was out more.
You'd leave first thing in the morning, and you'd have to be home for dinner. You didn't need you didn't need a helmet for your bike. Your parents didn't wonder where you were, even though you never had a phone. They wouldn't wonder where you were. I think the best memory for me for the 80s would be the roller skating discos. Oh, God, yeah. That was my favourite.
Do you know, they were, and even on the street as well, didn't you? It was always like up and down the street on your roller skate. Yep. I'm surprised any of us could walk, to be fair, because the amount of times I hit that floor and ripped all my knees up. But we used to go, like you said about, because we used to have, in the back of us where we used to live, we used to have like a recreation centre, and they used to have a big room where you used to go rollerblade. I loved it.
Yeah.
And when it first came out, we used to have them, them horrible ones that you used to have to put your shoes in, the metal bits that you tied up underneath.
Yes.
And they were really bad. And then as it moved on, we used to get the proper skates.
The boots, yeah.
I love it. I was there all the time. I used to go every single, I think it was 3 times a week. And I was all the time. I loved it, roller skating.
I got a job at one in the 90s.
Did you?
Because I loved it so much. And then I used to start doing competition skating.
Did you really?
Yeah.
So you were good then?
I loved it. Good at it. I could go backwards. I could do jumps. I could do anything. Yeah.
I can remember self-teaching myself when I was in, this was well in the 80s. I think it was like 85, 86. And I remember teaching myself to speed skate. You know, the way you go backwards with your feet. Yeah, I used to go all the way straight down. If I wasn't skating in the place that I went to, I was doing it on the street all the time. I used to go to the shops in them.
Yeah.
And then they started to have them stoppers in them, didn't they, at the front? Because I remember they used to not have anything in the front. And you just prayed the Lord that you would stop yourself when you used to go down. Because we used to have loads of hills as well like that.
Oh,
we used to go down them on these skates. But the ones that you put your feet in, the shoes, terrible. I can always remember my mum getting my sister a pair when she was very young. And there was like the Fisher Price ones, or like kids ones. And you put your feet in them. They didn't move. The thing is, though, they just moved.
You'd flop around and they'd go plop, plop, plop.
She just walked with them.
Yeah.
And when she did go outside, she'd go straight over because she was so used to using them on the carpet in the house. Oh, they were brilliant. Fisher Price.
Yeah.
She was talking about that, and I don't know if you remember, we used to have the little plastic record player that the kids used to have,
Mm-hmm.
and I think it was a Fisher Price one, and it used to have the little records, and when you press it, you should go. Ding, ding. Is it just?
It plays,
It play like Twinkle Twinkle Little Star or something like that.
Yeah.
But they, you know, what I mean, you don't, and you know, now she was looking at one of those, and they're literally about £70 to buy.
Fisher Price has been probably the best child's make of toy for a long time.
Absolutely, and they're still going. They're still making them. And I need to go back. I'll go back to the 80s, but I'd want my phone. Because that's what was always saying. Would you? Yeah, but if you can't have anything, I went, oh. And it's like, you know what I mean? I probably would. It wouldn't bother me. I mean, just, it was like you said, for me, it was the freedom, going out, being able to do what you wanted to do. You didn't have to worry about anything. Like I said, your parents didn't. And it's like, we used to go out, and you probably didn't go out then. You used to come back starving.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Because you probably,
no.
did you have sweets?
Mum and Dad would always give us 50 cents. But the size of the bag you would get for 50 cents was massive.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, when we grew up a little bit more in our teenage years, they'd give us $2, and that would do fish and chips for lunch.
Oh, I thought you were going to say you were a shoplifter, Lise, to be fair.
Oh, no.
I was going to be a little bit more impressed.
Right.
I thought light-fingered Lisa. Do you know, I know people that used to do that, and I tell you what, when they used to sit there and say to you, wait at the door, why do it? Not on your life. My mum would have literally dragged me over hot coals if I'd been doing anything like that. I can always remember my mum, and I've told this story before. We went to, it was in the 80s, I remember, Leicester, you have this, they've still got a big, massive market, and they sell absolutely everything. They sell sweets. I think they've cut it down a bit more now. They used to have like loads of sweets on show, and I always remember my mum picking one up. She was talking, she picked one up, walked off with it. It was literally, it was one of them old sweets, and she walked off, she put it in her mouth, ate it, and she made me go all the way back and give that woman, I think it was like 5p for that sweet, because she felt so bad, and she was more mortified. She didn't want to go back herself, so I'd say I took it.
I was more mortified, Mum or Dad giving me the jug cord if I got caught. It was like,
the what?
Jug cord.
The what? What's that?
So you know your kettle?
Yeah.
Where you do your cup of tea and your coffee, it's got a cord on it. It used to be like one of the plug-in cords. You get that around your bum. Electric bar. Yeah.
My mum used to. I tell you what, my mum used to. She'll hate me saying this. My mum used to, not that, but she used to throw things at us. And I used to think that my mum could see through walls for years growing up, because I'd literally be mouthing. She'd tell you to do something. I'd be walking into the kitchen, and I'd say something, and she'd hear it, and she used to come and, or she'd throw something, and she'd think, how is that? Come round that corner in it, man. How is that? I think she was terrible for that.
They always said mums have eyes in the back of their head.
Yeah. But the thing is, when you think it didn't do us any harm, and I know you're not allowed to, I'm not saying to everybody go out and throw things at your kids or hit them with a cord. I'm not saying that, but growing up then, that's what they did. It never did us any harm, and I just think, yeah, my mum used to have eyes in the. I'm convinced she had eyes in the back of her head. Honestly, when I hear people say women have got my mum's got eyes in the back of the head, I went, she probably has, because my mum used to have it, and she was.
When Dad used to say to me, "Your mother's got eyes in your back of your head," I had to go check. So I used to pull her hair up and check to see if she had on. I said, "No, she doesn't, Dad."
Because they knew it all. They knew everything. They could see everything.
Yeah.
And they knew whenever you were doing something wrong. And my mum was like, it was like, not just my mum, it's like when my sister, I've spoke to my sister when she was growing up, and my sister used to have this high-pitched screech, Lisa. Oh my God. You've never heard anyone squeal so much in your entire life. And she always fell on her knees.
Oh.
And she'd, all them grazed knees that she ended up with. I mean, she's got bad knees now. You know what I mean? But she used to end up with bad knees. And my dad used to get more mad at her screaming like that, because it sounded like someone was attacking her.
Oh.
Not the fact that Instead of like screaming, she'd go, "Whoa," and she'd literally take the street in a mouth and just literally scream it.
God, Lord.
Oh, and it was that used to drive my dad absolutely. But that was another thing. But that was when we used to go out, and we used to go down to like, I spoke about this, like canals. I mean, we used to swim in the canal. I mean, I'm surprised it didn't look like a fucking X-Man. I'm surprised it didn't look like an X-Man and all got like, you know what I mean? Because it was filthy. Whether it was, I've said this, but whether it was not as polluted, I don't know. But you would have had. Did you ever do it like that? You would have had lovely places to go and swim. You would have had a canal.
We had, yeah. Look, back in those days, you didn't worry about dirty water or picking up worms. Like, I used to go down the garden, pick up worms and eat them, you know. These days, it's just like, oh, don't get dirty, clean your hands, do this. It was like we were swimming in dirty water and stuff. We never got sick.
No.
You know?
No, not at all. That's the thing. None of us got ill. You know what I mean? Oh, that scared me a lot of sweat. That I was right. That is brilliant. We're gonna love you and leave you. Stay on because I'm gonna have a chat with you.
Yeah.
But thanks ever so much for that, Lisa. I'm gonna have thanks for that chat. And not from Australia. As much as I told everyone it's from Australia, from New Zealand. She grew up in.
Grew up in New Zealand. Lived in Australia.
Jason was researching Australia.
It's all right. I've learned a bit while I've been here.
There you go. It's always a school day. Thanks ever so much for coming on, and I'll speak to you later.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
How amazing was Lisa Chambers? Thanks ever so much for that, Lisa. You was absolutely amazing, as always, and as I knew you would be. Right, that's me done. So you'd like to follow me on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, Facebook, YouTube. You know what to do. Or you can email me at 80sboomboom@gmail.com if you want me to talk about anything from the 80s, or if you want to be a guest. Come on. If you want to be a guest and have a chat with me about you growing up in the 80s or what I grew up in the 80s doing, drop me an email or message me on all the other social media networks and follow me on all of them and subscribe here somewhere. There's a subscribe button somewhere. And that's me done. So have a great day, you beautiful lot.